Hello everyone, my name is Jakub Stokalski, I'm the game director and design director at Frostpunk 2, and I was lead designer for Frostpunk 1. So I got a lot of questions from you about the world and the lore of the Frostpunk universe, which are super interesting. However, they are also very specific. And the way we designed the world and the world building was for some things to stay intentionally vague. So I'll answer what I can, but with the rest you'll have to bear with me. So let's get to it. You can reasonably assume that while the story focused on London and England, the calamity was global and different countries saw it coming in different ways. And it just goes without saying that some would try to adapt in different ways. We even hint at this at the Lost Autumn and other points of the scenario. So you might reasonably expect different areas of the world to have some strategies of survival which we do not depict in the game. What they are specifically, how many survived, or maybe all of them are gone, we kind of want to keep under wraps. We did not want to focus too much on establishing, lots of backstory, which is not the point of the game experience itself. However, as again the lore grew, we knew that what actually enveloped Great Britain and the world in principle as the Great Freeze was progressing was a lot of social pressure to the point of civilization crumbling, right? So the old social order started being under extreme duress, and many violent happenings happened all around the world, but also in the British Empire. And what is the ultimate fate of the social structure of this time is something that we do, again, want to keep open. We did not specify, and we do not want to specify how many generator sites were there, apart from the fact that there were multiple. Basically, throughout all of the content you saw in Frostpunk 1, you saw multiple generator sites, as well as some failed sites. So it goes without saying that the whole generator project was a big effort by the British Empire to try to save civilization, right? So there are multiple. How many and how many were successful, we want to kind of keep under wraps. As to the second part of the question, are there any other technologies the generator used to survive the cold? Well, even as we established in the Lost Autumn, different countries and different powers at the time saw the freeze coming and tried to adapt in their own ways, like the French in the Lost Autumn building this mysterious railway thingy. But not even this. In the last expansion, On the Edge, we showed different settlements kind of trying to eke out a living after the Great Storm, even, right? With the convicts camp, or with the hot springs settlement around the geothermal springs. But definitely the generators were something big that was meant to uphold civilization and society in its structure. Other methods of survival, would they allow this large-scale human settlement, large-scale social structures to survive? This we don't want to define at this time. Well, New Manchester is a story of its own, so it was never intended actually for them to be survivors of Winterhome. But the fate of the people of Winterhome is intentionally left vague, and we will have to see if we can revisit them maybe at some point. That's the one we actually get quite a lot, also internally in the team. But the backstory here is this. The Great Freeze that was happening in the 19th century was actually enveloping the whole world, right? So it was not the fact that it was getting closer, it was getting colder everywhere, but a bit warmer on the equator. Actually, the temperatures were falling to a single global minimum all around the world. And if you would imagine, the places that were least adapted and least prone to succeeding as a coherent civilizational hub to such a dramatic process, it would actually be the areas which are least adapted to cold to begin with. So in the lore that we established, the actual equatorial area of the world and the colonies of the British Empire, other countries and indigenous people there were simply least prepared to what was coming. So as soon as it started happening, the biggest social upheaval, the biggest social problems, the biggest tumult and turmoil was happening actually in areas where it was the warmest. So if you think about it, if you wanted to do something like build a top secret Ark-like project of building the generators, you probably wouldn't want to, place it in an area which is already in upheaval. So that was the reason to go north, to try to maintain secrecy for the huge effort that was the construction process of building multiple generator sites, and trying to do it in a secret manner, as well as for the abundance of resources and the fact that the fauna and flora and the whole ecosystem in the north was best adapted to the cold from the very beginning. While it's not magical and it's certainly doesn't do what it wants, it is a bit of this, steampunk fantasy element of the world building that we did alongside with automatons, and you could argue the generator itself. So while we were building the game and building up the lore, what we truly wanted to focus on is the story of survival and what society is capable of when pushed to the limits. So we did not want to focus too much on your typical science fiction steampunk, doodads of the world. However, it is a steampunk world, and actually, the steampunk being the heat source as well as power source makes a lot of sense to use the genre in the setting that we built. And there are certain areas like the automatons, like the generators, like the steam cores, where we allowed ourselves to be a bit more loose with the interpretation to build up this steampunkness of the world, I would say. So yeah, the steam core is a power source, and it's definitely steam-based, as the name suggests, but I would leave it at this. It was an effort by Nikola Tesla to build up the city, which went wrong for social reasons and basically collapsed. And it was, as we were building it and developing Frostpunk 1, this was a bit of a cautionary tale and a foreshadowing of what could happen to your city if you didn't do a good job as the captain. Similarly to Winterhome, which triggered the big crisis of the Londoners in the main scenario. So we did not want to delve too much into the backstory of Tesla City, again for similar reasons. It's there to build up the core conflict of the player's city in the base game. So as I mentioned, the governments and the military and all of the structures of the society were crumbling down. So they simply weren't as much in power as they used to be as the Frost was progressing. So we've established this in different backgrounds of our cities. Like for instance, Winterhome has been established by a sort of a military outpost, which grew into a city, while refugees was taken over by a group of survivors and refugees, exactly. So it simply wasn't as simple as the military staying in power and in control, because as the world is ending, it is fair to say that nobody is really in control. Okay, so these are all of the questions, great ones. Maybe we can do it again sometime. So yeah, let us know if you found this entertaining, and if you have any other questions, follow us, and see you around in the Frostland.